Hey guys, men's dating coach HarryWilmington here, founder of IntrovertDatingSuccess.com. And today is the final show of this year. And so for today's show, I wanted to talk about 12 things that you need to be reflecting on about your dating life as you go into the new year, so that way you'll be able to start this new year off on a better dating foothold. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when I post up new daily videos. So like I said, guys, this is going to be the final episode of this show for this year. Well, I'm going to take the next 2 weeks off to enjoy the holidays and also to start planning out some really nice things for next year. I want to create some new programs for you guys. I want to work on putting together some new books and some new information that's going to really take your dating life to the next level. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that if you have the right skill set and the right mindset, and you know how to communicate well, then getting women can be an effortless situation. But you have to know what those things are. Hopefully I've been able to release some things this year that have helped you out. And I want to take some time off to really get into effect the next phase of the kind of things that I want to talk about with you guys to be able to really help you heighten your dating security and not feeling so anxious and really just having the confidence you need to date. So I'm going to do that. But for this show, I figured since we're in the holiday season, it's the end of the year, you know, people talk about the 12 days of Christmas. I thought it'd be kind of cool to go over 12 things that you may want to consider reflecting on about this past year as it pertains to your dating life. If you started this year out where either you were single or maybe you were in a relationship but you got broken up with, or you broke up with somebody and it's the end of the year now and you're still single, then there might be some things that you want to consider thinking about as it pertains to your dating life to help you in the next year. Because I think a lot of times in our day-to-day, we're just trying to survive. We're just trying to get by, and in the process of that, we're trying to do the best with the knowledge that we have. And sometimes in doing that, we are not able to really see fully what's going on, and we're not sitting down and analyzing what things am I doing that's working and what things am I doing that's not. And so the 12 questions I'm going to have you think about as we go into the new year hopefully will help you to really kind of capture a picture of where you're at with your dating life, where it could use some improvement, where it's going well, and what to do going forth, okay? So we'll get into that. Guys, tomorrow, if you're watching this in the middle of December, tomorrow, Saturday, December 19th, I do have a workshop going on. It's $97, and it's all about how to do online dating. It's the Smart Digital Dating live online training. So not only will we go over how to fix up your bio, your pictures, etc., you'll also get to ask me questions at this live event. If you're interested, simply go to the website, click on the link that's on the front page. That will take you to the registration page to actually sign up for the live, and then we will go live Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about the 12 things that you need to be reflecting on as we near the end of this year, so that way you can be where you really want to be next year in your dating life. All right. So I got a little list on my phone, so we'll go over that. So the first thing you want to reflect on is think about how many women did you actually ask out this year? Because you may be in a situation or a thought process rather, whereby you're thinking, man, no girls want me and girls don't want to date me and I'm so unattractive. But you really have to stop and ask yourself, did you actually ask out any women this year? You know, I know we were going through a pandemic, so it might have seemed hard, but in this pandemic, I've been doing online dating like crazy. I've had 2 serious relationships this year, and it was simply me just asking the girls on these dating apps, hey, let's go on a date. And so even though we are in a pandemic, you could use that as an excuse to be single. But if you were thinking back to like even last year when a pandemic wasn't going on, were you able to ask out any women? Did you have a high number of dates you were going on before the pandemic hit? You got to be honest with yourself about that, because if you weren't, then that means that the pandemic is not the issue. The issue is that you have not been stepping out to actually ask women out. Now, as an introvert, I can understand there might be some anxiousness, some hesitation to the idea of having to meet a new person and have to open up to them and get to know them. It can be very, very taxing on us, especially if you feel as though it's not going to go well. But you're never going to have evidence that you can, in fact, attract somebody and that somebody will go on a date with you if you're not actually asking. And so if your dating numbers are low, there's a good chance that your asking numbers are low too. On average, you probably gonna have to ask out like say 20 women to get 3 or 4 dates. So if you haven't gotten to 20 and you're just allowing those first couple of no's to be like, you know what, I knew it, girls don't want to date me, I'm out. Well, then you are not doing the due diligence you need to do in order to actually get the number of dates you want. I know for myself, if I'm doing online dating, for example, which I do all the time, if I'm doing online dating and I want to get a match that's going to say yes to a date, I know the numbers I got to swipe through and then the number of women I have to actually message to be able to get that one date. But I'm just looking at the end goal, which is I want that one date. And so any other no's I get or any other people that don't swipe on me or don't return my messages, I just count that as all as part of the process that I have to go through to get that one date. So again, how many women have you actually asked out? If you're finding that your numbers are low, you may want to consider if it's a number of people that you ask out that you need to have a higher number in order to get your results. So that's the first thing. The second thing it correlates with that, which is how many first dates did you go on? Because it's nothing to be like, I know you want to ask out a lot of women to be able to get some women to want to talk to you and not, but how many of those dates are actually going through? How many first dates are you legitimately able to take women on? And I say this because I've been on a lot of first dates whereby, like especially with online dating, I'll get a lot of first dates and I'll go on these dates and I'll be like, well, what made you choose me over these other guys that you're talking to? And their answer 9 times out of 10, I kid you not, is, well, you asked me for the date. There's other guys that we're talking back and forth and the conversation's going good, but they have not actually asked me for that first date. So again, guy, you got to ask out a lot of women, and then when you're able to get in those good graces, you got to be able to set up the first date. You got to be able to set the day and time and place, and you have to actually like get them on the date, okay? But as you start to ask out more women, you'll start to get more first dates. So these two really correlate well with each other, but really take into account how many first dates did you have this year? If you didn't have a lot of first dates, then that means that, yeah, you're not going to have a lot of women to choose from. So really work on asking out women and then getting a yes and getting on those first dates, all right? And, you know, my website, Introvert Dating Success, has a bunch of ways and techniques that you can use to actually ask out women in ways that will get women to say yes to you. The third thing you need to reflect on is what kind of activities did you do on these dates? Because it's not necessarily that the activity itself is the most important thing, but that said, the activities that you're doing are hopefully going to be ones whereby she's going to have a fun time. There may be things where you can kind of like build by way of conversation or certain actions on the date. And so if you are not doing active dates, or if you're not having the kind of conversations on these dates that are, you know, worth banter and getting a little worked up or whatever, then she's not having a fun time. And if women aren't having a fun time on these dates, they're probably not going to say yes to future dates with you. So you really want to kind of look at, okay, where did I take women? Did I take them to a restaurant where we just sat there and talked? Did I take them for drinks? Did I suggest walking around a park? Did I suggest doing a comedy club or, you know, going to a drive-in movie or something? Like, what was the activity? Because women really do respect and are more attracted to men that are actually planning out activities for them to do. If you've been one of those guys just like, we're just going to sit there and just talk and talk and talk. Yes, women do like to talk. And that's not to say that, you know, coffee dates or tea dates are like bad dates. But the more active you can typically make those first few dates, it's going to be able to help you build a bond a lot faster. Okay, so that's something to consider. The fourth thing you want to reflect on is on these dates, who did the majority of the talking? And I know you guys might not think about this, but when women go on dates whereby the guy is constantly talking and is talking to just hear himself talk and is not asking her questions about her life and what she's into and what she's doing, then women will start to get very bored on dates. And I know we've heard the whole thing of like, you know, women typically talk a lot more than guys do, but that's absolutely true. Like there have been studies done. Women on average say like 27,000 words a day. Men say on average 9,000. And yet somehow on a date, guys want to be all chatty Cathys or chatty Craigs or whatever, and they want to take over the conversation. They want to try to impress these women with their knowledge and their hobbies and what their life stories like. And, you know, you might be on this date whereby you're trying to say all this stuff in hopes of impressing her, but she's not really feeling that. All she's feeling is that you want to take over the conversation, that whatever she has to say is clearly not as important as what you want to say, and she's getting lost in the fact that ultimately the stuff you're saying is not really attracting her. Women are going to get mostly attracted to you, funny enough, when you ask them questions and allow them to talk about themselves. And that might seem a little bit selfish, but understand women are better at this conversation thing than we are. So they know how to start talking in a conversation and then segue it back into a question that asks you a question as well, okay? But if you're just on that date and you're talking like it's a monologue versus a conversation where you're talking for like 2, 3, 4 minutes at a time, and never letting her get a word in edgewise, that could be where you're losing a lot of women and you might not even be aware of it. So really analyze when you've been on these dates, and I do this all the time. I say, okay, what did I talk about on this date? What did I bring up? What did I mention? When was I silent? When did I let her speak? What questions did I ask her that got her talking? And so as you do that exercise, you'll start to realize, A, you probably are talking a whole lot. B, you could probably cut some of that back. And C, recognize that as you talk less and they talk more, they're going to find you more attractive. Think about all the movies where like women fall for the strong silent type. Silent type. There's a reason why these men are quiet. It's because when you're quiet and you're able to reflect and able to listen to her, you look like a more stoic figure and one that is more steady and calm. And women are going to typically go for that guy over a guy that's talking nonstop. So that's something to consider. So reflect on that. Reflect on how you were talking on these dates and what you were talking about. The fifth thing that you want to reflect on is who initiated physical contact. Now, this is an important one. I've done shows on this show before where I've talked about the importance of letting women be the ones to initiate touch. Why? Because when they initiate touch, that shows you as the guy that they are comfortable with you being in their physical space. But a lot of guys jump the gun because they've heard this whole thing about keynoing and about how if you want to attract her, you got to make sure you make those touches first. But what I found just in my own personal life is that if you let the woman come to you first and do a touch, at that point, now she's saying you are now open to touch me. But before you get that signal, it's typically a bad thing. That said, most guys, because they don't reflect on the dating that they're doing, they will go on dates. They'll try to get that really close, tight-knit hug in. They'll be touching her on her shoulder and her arms during the date. And then at the end of the date, they're kind of, not wondering why she is so quick to hug them and why she's not accepting future dates. But are you actually looking at how your date's reacting when you're doing those initial touches? Because I don't think a lot of guys read this. I can look at a guy and a girl on a date, and I can see points where the guy goes for the touch, and the woman just kind of like does a little thing with the face, or kind of does a flinch or backs off, and the guy doesn't notice it. And you have to be very, very aware of all the signals a woman's giving you, good or bad. So if you touch a girl, look at how her face is. Look at how her body is. Is her body reacting in a positive way, or is it kind of like going limp, or is it kind of like backing away from you? You need to be able to observe this to do a better job. If you go for a touch and you start to see her kind of like back away a little bit, you'll know, oh, maybe I shouldn't go for the touch just quite yet. And you just kind of like go back to yourself and keep having a good time. And in due time, if you were having a good conversation and you're making her feel comfortable, then she will touch you. So don't feel like you got to like initiate. Like, let them do that. But analyze, do a really meticulous job of looking at your previous dates and looking at the times that you tried to touch her. Was it because she touched you first, or was it you trying to touch her first? And what really was her reaction? If it was a girl that you took out and then she didn't want to date you anymore after that, that might be a thing you might want to consider, okay? So that's the fifth thing. The sixth thing to analyze is on these dates, especially these early on dates, did you verbalize your like or feelings or hopes about your date and wanting to get with her? And if so, how often? And this is a mistake that a lot of guys make, whereby after the second or third date, they want to start expressing feelings. I think we really get along great together. I love you so much. Or, oh, I think you mean the world to me and I could see us being together long term. They start expressing these feelings. They start expressing these like, I want to have a future together. And it's not that it's bad to have these feelings, because that's what's going to propel you to want to ask for future dates. But it's not in your best interest to verbalize that early on when she's still trying to figure out her feelings. So you have to look at, when you were on dates, you were giving compliments at some point. What compliments were you saying that indicated a strong like in the moment that she may not have been ready for? This is why I tell you guys, you really want to try to lay back on those kind of compliments early on, because until she gets to that point, if you say them out loud, she's going to feel uncomfortable. She's going to feel as though you're already stressing for her to be the girlfriend, because I've said before, women feel things 3 to 4 times more than guys do when they say stuff. So when you say, I really like you and I see a future together, she's already feeling that as she wants to get married to me like tomorrow, and I'm not there yet. So you have to really analyze how you've been talking to women, what things you've been expressing to them feelings-wise, and then figuring out if those are things you need to continue to do. If they're working for you, then you have no complaints and you don't need to listen to me at all. But like I said, in my personal dating life, I found that the earlier I verbalize feelings, the less likely it is that woman stays around long term. Versus if I kind of hold back a bit and let her come to me with her feelings, let her come to me with her expressions of whatever, then as I'm taking it in, they're giving those things to me. They're doing that because they want to impress me and they want to use it as a form of being able to chase me down. And as I always say, if they're chasing you, they can't be replacing you. If they're expressing out feelings to you first, they're not going to be trying to leave you by the wayside, all right? But look at how you've talked to women and see if you've been doing that too much. The seventh thing you need to reflect on is how often did you text? Were you texting her every hour? Were you texting her every day? Were you texting her every morning, every afternoon? What were you saying in these texts? Because understand, the momentum at which you text a woman is directly in correlation to how attracted she's going to stay with you once you guys first start talking. What I found is the more increased your texting is with the woman, in terms of you initiating those texts, the lower her feelings are going to be for you, because women need time away from you. They need time to wonder about you, and you being available to text all the time does not allow that to happen. Okay. So you got to really think back on, man, there was this girl you were seeing early on and the texting at the beginning was going great. You were texting every day. And then over time, what was happening to those texts? Were they getting less wordy? Were there being less feelings in texting in? Was she starting to delay her response to you? Did this happen with more than one woman? And if so, does this mean that there's that a texting that you're doing is directly affecting their attraction? Because I'm telling you, guy, it probably is. But you need to look back and see what kind of texting you were doing this year when you were talking to women. The eighth thing you need to reflect on is how long did you wait in between dates to ask for the next one? Were you trying to ask for a date while you were on a date? Were you trying to ask for a date the next day to say, hey, I had a good time. By the way, we should go out again? Were you waiting 4 to 8 days before you text her back to ask for another date? Again, all these things correlate with how often a woman's going to want to see you. You're probably thinking, if I ask her out every day and she likes me, she's going to want to see me every day and we'll just see each other every day. Rarely does it actually work that way, and rarely is it effective in growing a woman's interest, okay? I have found that if you go on a date with a woman, have a good time, and then you delay asking for the next date by a minimum of 4 days, you typically get a better response and a better chance of that woman saying yes to a second and third and fourth date and so forth and so on, okay? But you got to reflect and see, because, hey, you could be thinking, Harry, you're totally wrong about that. Okay, so look back at the girls you talked to this year. How many of them were you talking to on a regular basis? How many of them were you trying to ask out on a date the very next day? And how many dates were you able to get out of that one woman? I'm guessing you probably had a low amount of return dates with people simply because, in part, you were asking for too many dates too early on. But think about that for your own dating life. The eighth thing, let's see, is that 7 or 8? That was number 8. Okay, so number 9. The ninth thing to reflect on is how soon did you push for the first kiss or physical hookup? Now, this is important because some of you guys might think, well, you know, I messaged her for a lot, and then I want to make sure she's really comfortable with me. So I took these girls out on 5 or 6 dates to make sure that she was comfortable. But then when I went for the kiss, I still didn't get a kiss. And that's another example of something whereby the amount of time that you wait for the kiss is in direct correlation to if these women are going to A, accept the kiss, and B, be attracted enough to want to do it. And what I found is early on, when you are relatively new stimuli, it's actually going to be easier to be able to kiss a woman and thereby increase her attraction than it's going to be to wait 5 or 6 dates as her attraction is now starting to wane, and then you try to kiss her, and at that point, she's like, it feels more like a buddy-buddy situation, so I'm not into it. Now, that's not to say that every girl you kiss early on that first or second date is going to be like, oh, he kissed me early, so now I like him. But what I'm saying is the probability of that happening is a lot better if you do it early on. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure you're reading the signals right. You want to take her on 1 or 2 dates. You want to see if she's been touching you, what she's been saying in her conversation about you, and about, you know, how much of a gentleman you are and how much she likes you, whatever. You want to read those things, read her body language, see if she's been walking close to you. And then in that point, when you're reading those things, you go in for the kiss, okay? And so, like I said, typically the earlier on you go for the kiss, you're going to get better. You're going to have more women that want to kiss you, and also you're going to typically have better results and have women that kiss you back and then want to continue to date you. Okay, but you got to analyze how many first kisses did you legit go for, and how long did you wait to do those kisses. If you either A, never went for the kisses, or B, were waiting 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 dates before you tried to go for one, and you're still single, then what that means is you may want to analyze the rate at which you're kissing women and how often you're doing it, and determine if you need to change up when you're initiating it in the first place. So that is number 9. Number 10, how soon after that first kiss or physical hookup did you try to lock down a relationship? And here's where a lot of guys get in trouble, because let's say you get that first kiss, or you're able to like knock it out the park and have the full physical hookup on that first date, second date, third date, whatever. This is the point at which guys go straight to the finish line, because they feel like, okay, I got the kiss and I got the physical hookup, so this must mean that she's already at a level with me whereby she sees me as the boyfriend. I might as well just go ahead and ask her. And then you end up shocked shocked, I tell you, when you ask these women for a relationship and they're like, what are you doing, dude? Like, whoa, I'm still trying to get to know you. Understand, guys, and I've said this many times on the show, so I'm hoping it's drilling in your head. Women on average take 2 to 3 months before they've solidified their feelings, okay? Now, that does not mean, though, that she won't be in the mood for some makeout sessions or some bedroom fun while she's getting to know you. But it does mean that those actions do not mean or indicate that feelings about you have been fully solidified in the realm of, I completely like this person and want to be with them, okay? Again, physical hookups and makeout sessions are fun activities that women also enjoy and can do without having to expressly be in a relationship. And I think that's where, as guys, we get in our heads, okay? So, you have to reflect. Where there are times where you actually got to the kissing phase or the physical hookup phase with the woman and then try to go and make her the girlfriend like the next day and she started backing off. If that's happened to you, then you may want to reflect on if that happened and what you need to do to change that. One of those things being that maybe you shouldn't be trying to rush this as a relationship simply because you got a good makeout session. Maybe you need to let her learn more about you, even if a hookup happened, so that way she'll be better. She'll have better feelings about you and be more confident about you potentially being the one that she's going to be with long term. Okay? So that is number 10. Number 11 thing to reflect on is how many times per week were you trying to see her? This goes back to the whole dating thing, but also in terms of asking for dates. But also, let's say for argument's sake, you get through that first month with the woman and you even become like the boyfriend. Okay? When that happens, guys will start thinking, now that we're in a relationship, it's totally okay for me now to see this girl every single day. Understand, guy, women's attraction for you builds and holds much better during the times when you are not in front of her face, because that gives her time to think about you. It gives her time to miss you. It gives her time to, if she comes across a shirt of yours that you left at her place and she can smell it, it's bringing up all these feelings of euphoria and oxytocin, and she's wondering about you. And like I've said before, wondering about you is very, very powerful. Women need to be wondering about you in order to think about you, in order to want to see you again. And the want to see you is going to be stronger than actually seeing you. But guys make the mistake of they get in a relationship and now they want to see the girl like 5 times out the week. But really, guy, you got to think about this, okay? Think about if you've been in a relationship or been in just a dating situation that's been going very well and you've upped it to like 5 or 6 times a week that you're seeing her. If you started to notice that over time, she started to say things like, I need my space, I'm just so bored, I'm getting tired, I don't know why I'm not feeling the same, I think we need some time apart from each other. If you've heard that before, you got to reflect on, were you spending too much time with this person? Were you trying to see them too many days out the week versus maybe 2 or 3 times and then giving that person 4 to 5 days out the week to not see you, to miss you, to have time to themselves to want to see you? These are things that are important to reflect on and then possibly make a change at, because even though a girl gets into a relationship with you, that does not mean she now wants you to be her constant entertainment, nor is it a need that is needed for her brain to stay attracted to you, okay? And all I'm interested in, guy, whether it sounds, like a good idea or not, all I'm interested in is giving you techniques that are going to keep women attracted to you. And I have found that being readily, constantly available day after day for women does not typically keep her interest. So consider that for yourself. And then the 12th thing you want to reflect on is who brought up being in a relationship first. In all of your dating situations this year, when you were close to you felt like you were dating for like 2 or 3 months and you were feeling like it was going to possibly be a thing, who brought it up first? Was it her hinting to you that she was ready for a relationship? Was it her saying, hey, what are we? Hey, so my friends are asking what's our title? Hey, so I want to know where this thing is going. Or was it you? And during the times that you brought it up, how typical was it for a relationship to then occur? Or how typical was it for her to suddenly start backing away, saying, this is moving too fast for me, it's too much too soon, and then she starts backing away, she stops answering your texts, et cetera, et cetera. Because again, what I found through my reflections was that when I was the one that was trying to ask for the relationship first, typically the women started getting weirded out and going away. Versus when I waited that 2 to 3 month period, and even then waited for them to ask me those questions, because they're the ones chasing me now, it typically went a lot better, and I was able to get into those relationships a lot faster than if I had asked them, okay? So you got to look at your situation. You might be a guy that's been able to say to a girl, hey, so I want to know if you want to be my girlfriend, and it works out totally fine. And hey, those situations can happen. But I consider those outliers because, again, the majority of situations that I've been through and the situations that I've had people that I've coached gone through, and the countless number of dating forums that I've visited where I've read story after story of guys that wanted to express themselves to their women and to be able to say, hey, I want you as my girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. The majority of these situations combined have usually resulted in the guy losing the girl, okay? But again, you got to reflect on that for yourself. But consider all these things that I've talked about on this show. Consider all things that I've asked you to reflect on and really look back at your dating life this year and think back and say, if I'm still single at the end of this year, is anything that Harry said that he wants me to reflect on, have any of those things legit been the cause or resulted in me now being at where I'm at? Because it might not be. You might have been a guy that dated somebody for a long time, and then you decided to break it off, and now you're single because you realized whatever situation you were in wasn't working. That's totally fine. But for you guys out there that have been trying all year to ask out women, to take them out, to, do various things, and you've been constantly getting rejected, or you've been having some good dating situations that ended up ending because the girl wanted to end it, or girls that were once talking to you suddenly ghosted you, really reflect on everything I said in this episode to really look back and say, were any of these things that I need to change? And if so, what are they and what changes can I make? Because for this new year coming up, guy, if you're able to reflect on how this year went for you date-wise and realize that you do need to change some things, then you're going to be more open to whatever those changes are, at which point you can go to my website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, and sign up for Smart Digital Dating. You can read some eBooks. You can do research on various other YouTube videos and other podcasts. But the point is, if you reflect and realize you're not where you want to be, and you don't take it as an ego thing, ultimately, if you're not where you want to be, it's simply because there's some knowledge that up to this point you have not been privy to. And that information is readily available. And once you start looking that up, you'll now have a new knowledge set that's going to allow you to have the dating life that you want. Because, hey, guy, I was just like you once. There was a time in my life where I was a horrible dater. I wasn't getting the results I wanted. I was asking girls out. I was going on dates. I was getting 2 or 3 dates with some girls, and then they would stop talking to me, and they would go away and go ghost. And I had girls that would make fun of me for, the way that I was at times. And I had girls that I asked out that had bad attitudes. And then, I was getting into bad situations, and there were other times where I got into good situations, but I just didn't know how to be that right guy, and so they would leave or whatever. Trust me, I've been there. I know the pain. Combined with being an introvert that also still wants his alone time, and then you're trying to be in a relationship and get your alone time at the same time without hurting the other person's feelings. Guy, I've been through all of that. And I'm here to tell you, once you're able to work through those things and start really putting out some blueprints for yourself on the ways that dating really legitimately can work for you, then you'll get to a place in your dating life where there's nothing but peace and tranquility, because you'll have a control of how these things are going to best work for you. You'll be a lot happier, and you'll ultimately be able to land a woman that's going to be everything you wanted her to be and more. And it can happen, but only if you're able to reflect, really take a really good look at how your dating life actually is, not the way you want it to be, or not blaming women for how the way that they are, or not taking stock in the fact that you are responsible for your own dating journey, but really sitting down and looking at all this stuff and saying to yourself, you know what? I can do better. I'm going to get the tools I need to do better, and I'm going to work on those things. And when you do that, guy, you can have the best dating life ever, okay? And hopefully in the upcoming year, I'll be able to help you with that. In the meantime, go back on all the shows that I've done this year on my podcast. You can go to iTunes, you can go to Spotify, you can check this out on YouTube. Just go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, and you get these videos on a regular basis, and you'll be able to get much needed help in your dating life, because I will be your #1 champion. All right. So thank you guys for watching this show and for listening to the show. I'll be back, like I said, in 2 weeks. Give us a little break to reflect on some things myself for this year, and also to start putting together some really nice stuff for you guys for the upcoming year. And best of luck to you. Happy holidays. Go through my stuff. You can go to smartdigitaldating.com/enroll to look at that program to see if you want to start getting a jump on how to do online dating for the upcoming year. And hopefully you'll be able to have the dating life you want next year. So best of luck to you, and appreciate you watching and listening. Thanks for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. While there, you can also download a free copy of my ebook, Texting Like a Boss, where you'll learn the kinds of texts that really attract women. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment on this episode, and catch new episodes 7 days a week right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out some other episodes so that you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.